Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Line of Details podcast. I'm your host, Wes Pendleton, and I'm here with my co-host, Zari. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Word. Good day today. It is Friday currently. What's this, May 30th or 31st? May 31st that we're recording. So we always record on Fridays, guys, just to let you know, and the episodes will go live on Mondays. So a lot of times you'll hear us talking about current events and music, and a lot of times if we say yesterday, we're literally talking about either Thursday, most, 9 times out of 10. So just to give you reference, if you ever hear us say yesterday, we don't want you to think that we're talking about Sunday. But very, very excited about episode 2. Before we get started, just want to shout out to our sponsor, NordVPN. If you guys haven't checked out our exclusive hyperlink to save you some money, it's nordvpn.org/soulsurplus. So let me break down what NordVPN does. Basically, if you ever find yourself in a foreign place and you have to use the Wi-Fi, whether you're in a coffee house or you're at a music studio, or maybe even you're at the airport, and you're about to fly somewhere, anytime that you surf the web, you are vulnerable to hackers. People can fish through your data and get, credit card stuff and all that. And this is just stuff that we don't want out there. So what NordVPN does is it sets up a virtual private network for you, allows you to peruse the web, send files, pay for your Grubhub, whatever, without worrying about people prying into what you're doing. So, like I said, to save 75% off a 3-year plan plus 1 month free, head over to nordvpn.org/soulsurplus or use our code SOULSURPLUS, all one word, to get that 75% off a 3-year plan with 1 month free, which, by the way, you can cancel at any time. Everybody on the team uses NordVPN. We swear by it. There is no issues with speed or anything, and it just feels good to be secure. So now that we got that out the way, we can go ahead and hop into this episode. So good thing today, we have some special guests. We got John McNeil, who is the co-founder of Soul Surplus. What's up, John?
What's up, y'all? Good to be here.
And we also have our good buddy John Smythe, who came all the way out here from Dirty Jersey, you know what I'm saying, to show some love.
I came out here from clean Jersey. Clean Jersey.
Yeah. No, but seriously, appreciate you guys coming in. There's going to be some things that we talk about that both Johns are going to be able to chime in with. But yeah, we're going to hop right into it. So obviously you guys, if you haven't seen the first episode, you know that the first thing that we do is we tend to go over, 1 or 2 tracks from the week before that really, really stuck out to us. And last week, Elle and I, we really love this new Blue and Exile EP that just dropped. If you guys aren't familiar with Blue or Exile, Google them, hop on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. So this week, like we said, the title track, True and Living, got wild amounts of repeats this last week. You've got drums placed all the way in the pocket with the perfect complementary sample. The sample in this particular record, in True and Living, is an Impressions cut from We're a Winner album released in 1968. And if you listen carefully, you can actually hear a few cuts of Curtis Mayfield crooning sprinkled into the main loop. The Impressions obviously have long been a go-to for producers when they want that true soul sample for their record. I've sampled the Impressions more times than I could count. I mean, literally, at one point they were almost like 75% of what I personally sampled. Not only are you guys going to get that 3-person harmony whenever you're sampling from those guys, but you're also going to get those solo sprinkles of either Curtis Mayfield and some of the earlier Impressions records. And then later on, after Curtis left the group, you're going to get that Leroy Hudson takeover, you know what I'm saying? So some of your favorite flips over time come from the Impressions. I mean, if you go to a place like Who Sampled, I mean, you're going to pretty much be scrolling for days, hearing all the usage of that. So We Must Be in Love by Dilla, All My Life by Freeway, which was produced by Bank. This is You and Me, Zari. This is our childhood right here.
Facts.
That Freeway record. And you guys too. You guys are from Philly too. I'm acting like,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm acting like you guys aren't from here. Or not Smythe. Smythe, you wasn't outside at that point.
You were.
We were just young bulls, man,
Yeah. Smythe was definitely all the way like 4 years old when that record came out.
I'm not from Philly.
Yeah.
First of
all.
Thank God. Thank God.
But I mean, I'll even say, even as a guitar player, Curtis Mayfield is a huge influence, especially for soul music. I mean, that's soul guitar right there. To me, Curtis Mayfield and Isley, I forgot his name. Not Ron Isley, his brother. The Isley brother that plays guitar. To me, that's soul guitar right there. If you want to sample something, yeah.
Yeah. So, "Love and I Lost" by Common, produced by No ID, The Impressions. Pete Rock, Madlib, the list goes on with producers who have used The Impressions. On the first episode, if you guys noticed, we actually played the original song and the original sample. We're not going to do that moving forward because of copyright issues. So what we'll do is we'll produce a link in the description, send you guys back to the original records, and also give you just a list of some of the tracks that you'll find this same original sample that you hear on True and Living on other records that you probably even know about. So that's our record for the week. And now we are going to get into the news, which this particular story is pretty much going to dominate this whole entire podcast episode. And the fellas are going to jump in here with us. So, Zari, you take it away, man.
Yeah, so in recent news, royalty rates have increased. Last year, the Music Modernization Act was signed and passed in office. As a result of this act, the CRB, which is the Copy Royalty Board, recently confirmed mechanical royalty increase of 44% for songwriters, which is it's pretty good. I'm not going to say that's like a major.
No, that's major. 44% is a lot.
Maybe that's still
big for
like a
them.
fraction of a penny in itself.
Yeah,
Right.
which we'll get into.
Yeah.
For sure.
Good Lord. So according to an article on Loudwire.com, Google and Pandora, as well as Spotify, urged Court of Appeals to look into the CRB's pay model. So the CRB, in a split decision recently,
Which, by the way, the CRB is the Copyright Royalty Board.
right. Basically, what the article states on Loudwire.com is that Google, Pandora, and Spotify are actually fighting against this appeal. So they're looking to the court to actually turn around this decision. While Apple, in the meantime, actually has no issues with this being passed. So I think it's actually really good for the songwriters themselves, as they tend to not make as much money as the artists themselves.
Right.
So if we want to go into mechanical royalties for streaming, according to royaltyexchange.com, to understand this figure, the average per stream royalty for both the composition and recording on Spotify is around half a penny. The sound recording average is about 0.0038 per stream. That leaves 0.0012 to the composition, which is then split 50-50 between performance and mechanical royalties.
That's insane.
That is not a lot at all. So that is
Definitely
probably
see that
the
on my
portion.
royalty checks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, literally right before we started this actually particular episode, John literally just pulled out his latest royalty statement. He was literally just saying that it was trash.
Yeah.
Because it was so low.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't check for them anymore. I mean, that's why we had to start a sound design company.
Yeah. Straight
Couldn't
up.
make a living being a producer right now.
Straight up. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Well, as
Cut
far
you.
as a songwriter, it would require approximately 1.6 million on-demand streams to earn $1,000 in streaming. And that's just for mechanical royalties.
Right. And that's just for the writer. So how much are Spotify, Apple, all those guys getting for those streams? Like, that's the thing I want to know. Or even the record label before it gets out to the writers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What's interesting, it's like you have Spotify's and the streaming services kind of serving as the labels now.
Right.
The wild, wild west with that, and they're trying to get in there and fill that seat and that throne that's been previously taken by the traditional label sense in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, a lot of reason why Zari and I really wanted to talk about this was, to be honest with you, if not for streaming, there is no soul surplus.
Sure.
It does not exist.
Facts.
Yeah.
Because, so it's 2019. I think the first time that I really started getting hurt by streaming was around 2013. The amount of money that I made from a salary standpoint that first year, I think it went down like 30% from the year before, which if you are a freelance type of contractor, 30% is a lot of money. Especially considering the fact that 30% is basically what I'm paying in taxes. So now I've basically it's almost like you're paying the same amount that I would have to pay out in taxes while also losing more money and then actually still having to pay my taxes. So I didn't really feel like I lost 30%. I felt like I lost 60%. That's what it felt like, you know? So what happened was, and it wasn't because people were like, Wes, we don't like your production or anything like that. That's not what it was. Wit actually experienced the same thing in a way too. But what happens is if the label realizes that it's starting to lose money because of streaming, and they're not getting as much revenue on the back end because of streaming, because now people aren't buying records, they're just pressing play. That trickles down from the top through everybody. So now all of a sudden, then the artist makes less money. The artist budget goes to almost nothing, especially for the types of labels that I were working with were more mid and small size labels. I've never had a chance to work with a major label ever outside of television and movie stuff, but I've never. So anyway, it trickles down to the artist. The artist budget goes away, which then in turn means that the production budget goes away. And then after the production budget goes away, so now you're not making anywhere near as much money on the upfront, but then you're also not making any money on the back end. So John and I could go into a negotiation 6-7 years ago, and we could use, in essence, what the label is better at. So maybe the label might do better with giving you the upfront money because they can actually give you a bigger, piece of the pie up front. Or if a label maybe doesn't have as much money, but you know that they have like a rabid fan base and they do really, really well, radio and stuff like that, now you can negotiate to just get more of your portion on the back end. Now all of a sudden you're not getting either. And so for me, by the time I got to like 2015, 2016, I was faced with, I still got to take care of my family and I have no money. You know what I'm saying? And I've never been in a position where I don't have any money. I don't know about y'all, but I've never been there. You know what I'm saying? So I had to go literally work retail to make up for it. And it was probably the best thing to happen for me. But,
best thing for all of us.
Yeah. Yep. But the funny thing is, because of streaming, what that did was that actually showed me how I could still be of service technically to those who want to create. And that's how we created Soul Surplus. You know what I'm saying? So, but John, how are you, you and I have had many conversations about. So in case you guys don't know, John is obviously part of the Soul Surplus production team, but he's also one half of the production duo 42 North with Joel. And he's also 1/3 of the production trio, Weatherman, him, Joel, and Wit. And it's mad funny because we're all on Soul Surplus. So it's like, we got like 4 different production teams on Soul Surplus. But even just watching you just the last 3-4 years of how you guys negotiated when you first started, even compared to just recently with working with artists. How's that been for you guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, you've seen the evolution of it just in a short amount of time, half a decade with 5 years or so.
Right.
It's truly evolved. I remember being in Nashville, working on a record with an artist, and the publishing guy there at the label and some of the execs, they went out to dinner with us, and they basically were just talking very candidly about this change in the music kind of industry and like royalties and everything. And they're basically like, hey, it's the Wild West right now. And it's just, if you give it time, it's going to shape out. What it needs is more people jumping into streaming. And then soon we might see the days of old where people are just making a lot of money off of sales. But it's just more about more people being in the pool and being in the streaming service. So it's still kind of hard for me to kind of like take that and understand how that could work, because to me it just seems like now you have like the age-old conundrum of the folks at top are trying to sort out how they can keep more money in their pockets. And Like I said, like some of these streaming services do act like how labels were acting in older days, where it's like, hey, 360 deals, let's keep this money in the pocket and everything. Right. So it's interesting for us. Yeah, we really have dealt with those harsh realities of your publishing checks just looking like really trash in a quarter, and you're just like, you're expecting a little bit more. So then, yeah, like you said, Wes, you go into negotiations with this in mind, because honestly, those folks who are negotiating with you, sometimes artists, sometimes labels, sometimes anyone, they don't have that in mind for you.
Right.
They're thinking you're being a jerk or thinking you're asking for way too much. but you're literally asking for what you know you're not going to get on the back end.
Right.
You can't like depend on that anymore. You have to get as much as you can up front. And I think more people just need to understand that you know, a lot of producers, I can go in and do things on a love, and a lot of conversations were built on what we'll make on the back end, but now that back end rarely exists too much, and people just aren't selling like they were.
Yeah,
Right.
The producers don't go on tour.
Yeah,
The artists
Right.
make all that
exactly.
tour money.
It's
Yeah.
funny. 70% of artists' income and revenue is still touring
Touring,
and
yeah.
merch.
And it's
Yeah.
but it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Even-
That's
even in the
literally where
old
they make
model.
the
Yeah, the
majority
old
of
model,
their
you're
money.
right.
The old model, I mean, they obviously still made more money.
Yeah,
And so to put into perspective, back in the day, an artist might make 10 cents to 15 cents every record. I know that sounds bad, 10 cents, but just think about that in relation to fractions of a penny
Right.
in today. So if you're somebody like Eminem, if you're getting 10 cents a record, if you're going 5 times platinum, you're still going to be looking really, really nice in that. But then you put on top of that, an Eminem can tour and he can fill out a stadium with no problem. As a matter of fact, he's probably going to actually do more football stadium than basketball stadium because he can get 100,000 people to come out to a record. So he's good. But now, do you guys also feel, maybe I can swing this to Smythe now, because Smythe is really more kind of in this world as a producer who actually plays instruments. Do you find yourself being able to leverage more of the fact that you can actually play as a producer? So like you have a production, you like you're in a group. So like
We just made $20, by the way,
yeah, nice.
over a course of a year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which is better than some people make. But seriously, like that's bad. So to put it to no, I'm joking, but I'm being serious. Like I know, like there's some people that don't even make that much.
Yeah.
No, they'll literally get a check in the mail from BMI for like 3 cents.
Yeah,
4
exactly.
cents.
Yeah.
Might I say, that has been me. I have received a BMI check for like $3.17.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a little jaded, like listening to you guys. I guess I'm just jaded. That's why my face has been looking like this whole conversation. I remember, was it this year or was it last year? Last year, a song I co-produced made it on national television, and it took me so long to get the money, and the amount that I got, I couldn't even pay my car note. Not my car note now, car note back then.
Oh, the whole John.
Yeah. And that was the moment I realized, and I just had a conversation with my brother yesterday. He was saying, art is not music business. So, you really got to be in it for the right reasons. Like you have to be fulfilled, not because you're making money, which is, of course, besides the point. But I'm just kind of like jaded from that. But to answer your question about being able to play an instrument, I think that helps as far as like the income that you can bring in playing music.
Well, I mean,
As far as like
from the standpoint that
doing
you can
production.
you can actually book a show faster than I could book a show as a producer,
right?
Because you can actually produce and play, and I could play too. Let's not, we don't want to get crazy.
Don't get it twisted.
But that's not my wheelhouse. So would you say that you actually would potentially even make more money because you're a musician who's a producer at the same time?
Yeah.
So
well,
when you put your records out, you can actually put on a live show where if I put out a record out of beat tapes, like ain't nobody coming out to see that. I mean, maybe they might, but
yeah,
That's a lie.
Yeah, I don't know, because like there's people do shows just as DJs. They just push a button and they fist pump, But the other thing is what also helps as a producer musician, there's a lot of placements that I have just as work for hire, which is, sometimes like I think about the work for hire placements that I've had versus production placements. And I kind of wish, like, from the money that I made from some of the records that I've produced on, I kind of wish they would just like give me $100 check.
right.
That would have been more than what I would have made anyway. Just, pay my gas for getting down to the session.
right. And I think
And
even
we'll be straight.
And I think even like as a company, I think that's why we've been able to do so well, is because with me being more of the managing partner and John actually kind of being my right hand man on the business side, it's allowed you guys to actually just worry about the art.
Right.
And so John and I are emotionless when it comes to the music. Don't get me wrong. We throw on some of these compositions and it's just like, this is literally the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And I low-key don't think that this should be in the pack because it's too good to be put into a royalty-free sample pack. Like we John and I still kind of go through this, like, should we pull this from the pack type of thing. But at the same time, you know, music is always going to come from the heart if you do it from the heart anyway. And this is one of those things where what we're seeing right now is you're seeing the commercialization of music, the commodification of music. And what it does is it drives guys who are the best at what they do because they're doing it from the heart now turn into, in essence, like worker bees because they have to churn out. We just talked about on the last, remember we were talking about on the last podcast last week, we were trying to figure out like what is Logic's recording contract like? Because this dude be putting out like three albums a year.
Yeah.
So like stuff like that for somebody that big.
And they all go number one.
Yeah, they do. But like think about that. Somebody who goes number one with every record has to put out 3 records in a year. That's not, when we were coming up, that's not something that you saw. If you got an album every 5 years, you were lucky. You know, the way we came up. So I'm gonna flip this right back to John, and then we're going to get some numbers from Zari before we even deep dive even more. But the one thing that I have noticed with you guys specifically with Weatherman especially, there's so much talent in that group. You kind of can't quantify your worth from a number standpoint. It's almost impossible to do that. But because you know that you're not going to get anything on the back end in a way that would respectfully get what you should get, now this causes issues on the upfront. How do you guys deal with that? Is it like, I would imagine that it depends on the artist that you're working with, because I have seen you guys get a nice check up front from one artist, and then I've seen you have to negotiate basically to use some type of leverage tactic to make sure that you guys at least are maybe just building the brand, helping the brand progress forward. So how do you guys, navigate through that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it goes literally to the thing you and Smythe were just talking about the currency now being brand visibility. And for producers now, some were already doing it, and especially in the DJ world, a DJ can show up to a show and actually be the act because that's just how they're marketing themselves now. And like a lot of guys are finding more value in that. I mean, we've seen it throughout hip hop as well with any producer who acts as an artist, the front facing currency and value. But that's been more and more important for us personally with Weatherman. We felt that, since we're not getting, the money we know we're worth and people are just not going to pay, will at least give us the currency, which is brand visibility, and then also getting the stream numbers as well.
Right.
So a lot of us, we were just like, hey, we know you can't pay what we're worth in a certain circumstance. So at least just give us the brand visibility of letting us be an artist on that track and not just in the liner notes as producers. And like I said, this isn't new. This has been happening. But for us, it felt more important for us, especially in this age of streaming, where now if you go into talks with a label or your worth is hugely measured on the eyes that are on you, your numbers on Instagram, your numbers on, all the streaming sites on Spotify, if they can see how many monthly listeners you have and all these different sites, those things are important now. And I call it the currency of brand visibility.
Right.
And that's been kind of for us what has been, it's risen to the top as the most important thing, because then it opens up those other avenues, which we just talked about. The 70% of how you're still building revenue is merch and doing shows.
Right.
And if you have those monthly listeners and if you have that brand visibility, doing a show can be easy, no matter if you can play an instrument or not.
Right.
Obviously we can, but brand visibility, man, that's how you do it. I mean, I just was on tour for a month. I just got back last week with a band, totally DIY, no label, no backing.
Right.
They had a bus, did like a 30-city tour, whole U.S. Brand visibility, man,
right. And packing a joint out too, by the way.
Packing them out, selling venues out. So
now I'll say this. One of the things that I was able to take advantage of as a producer, I never was the best producer. Like let's go ahead and just put that out there. I think I was good at what I did. But I think the thing that I did better than everybody else was I branded myself extremely well. So before streaming, that actually worked well for me because I could literally not only pull in a considerable amount of money from people buying production from me, but I could also do very well by putting out my own records and making money off of that too. So what happened was once streaming kind of came in, now all of a sudden I stopped making money from guys paying me for records, or they were paying me, half of what I was making before. And then the money that I was making off my own records, that went almost completely away. And now I'm not making anything. So it's just real interesting. I definitely want to start to go into some of these numbers. Zari has some numbers which are very, very troubling if we're keeping it funky.
Yeah.
And we've all known this, but this is something that we wanted to talk about to the producer community about the things to think about when you're kind of going into this. Because we see DMs, we got hundreds of DMs, whole bunch of emails. You can just see that guys really gravitate towards this industry because they genuinely think that they're going to make money. And there's days where I want to say, you can make good money, and a company like Soul Surplus will help you keep your money in your pocket because now you can get a sampled sound while not worrying about having to pay the royalties for sample clearance. But at the same time, you got to hustle very, very hard to really make a considerable dent. You know what I'm saying? So Zari, I know you got some numbers for us. Like, could you share some of those with us?
Just an example for some numbers. There was a producer by the name of Rodney Jenkins who co-produced "As Long as You Love Me" by Justin Bieber. Just to give you some of these numbers here. Sirius XM, 1,509 spins. He earned $765. Pandora, 38,225,700 spins. He earned $278.
That is insane.
YouTube, 34,229,900 spins. He earned $218.17. So I think it's after the Music Modernization Act was, passed last year. I think it's a right step in the direction of helping people make more money off of these songs that are, making the top 100, top 200, even the top 10 on the billboards. These artists are putting in all the work, and the labels and the streaming companies are making most of the money.
Right.
So that's why they're fighting against it, because, they want to keep and hoard as much money as they want to or can. So,
and the crazy thing with Rodney Jerkins, that's Darkchild. So you're talking about somebody that got mad years in the game.
Right.
Big records.
That dude's been making records since I was in high school.
Facts.
Same.
You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about, in essence, in a couple years, you're talking about 3 decades worth of being like a great producer. And even he is feeling that, which is, I don't know, man. Sometimes I wonder if this is also another thing that has also lent to what seems to be the exhaustion, both physically and mentally, by this generation of musicians. I'm wondering if streaming is the reason why somebody like Mac Miller feels like he has to go to prescription drugs and drinking and all types of stuff, because maybe subconsciously, he mentally has this strain that he has to keep things going. And he's making millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? But he has to work so this is what happens when you start making money. Now I can talk from a personal perspective. When we first started Soul Surplus, it was me, John, and Joel. It was very easy the first year because it was just us 3. You step into last year, then we started hiring people. By the month, the stress starts to grow on you, because now people's livelihoods are at stake, because you can't grow something without a team. And this, to me, is also the reason why producers have especially struggled, because producers tend to run in just by themselves. So you don't have different arms to go out and get various pieces of diversify your revenue streams, because you're kind of only just by yourself. So like, I know what it feels like. John knows what it feels like to work hard and to really be like, yo, if we like have like a bad misstep this month, literally nobody's getting paid. I know what that feels like. So I can only imagine with somebody like of that magnitude to employ probably hundreds of people in essence. Then you got to take care of your family, everybody's asking you, somebody need new shoes for AAU, your cousin, you know what I'm saying, got daycares, they 3 months behind, and you know what I'm saying, and you give them that 3 months behind and they show up in a cherry red Charger, and it's like, fam, didn't you just need money for daycare? So all these things like weigh on people. Sometimes I wonder if the way things are right now, because the love has been stripped away, because of things like streaming, because music has been so commodified, does that lend itself to why dudes gotta, you seen the Baby video the other day when he knocked out old boy at the, was that Versace?
It was a
No,
Gucci
Louis.
store.
It was at the Louis store.
A Louis store.
He knocked out Cam Coldheart.
No, the Baby, the
No
rapper.
Baby, the rapper. ATL.
Yeah, he knocked out Cam Coldheart, which is another
He's a rapper
Yeah.
too.
another local rapper from the same area.
Right. So now you got dudes like, clout chasing is a thing,
Yeah.
but you almost feel like you almost have to clout chase to even make a dent as an artist now,
Yeah.
which literally causes you to get knocked out. And I almost low key feel like dude probably don't even care that he got knocked out because now he has more visibility. So
And it's a,
Well,
and
that's
it's a
brought
tough
on-
line
no,
to
I'm
play.
I'm
Yeah.
serious. Like
That's
this is
literally brought on the whole, not just clout chasing, but like doing like literally stunts prior to your album release to get you like notification and like, notarization to
Having
say everybody sees
6ix9ine.
you.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Build a career on it.
Yeah.
And where they end up.
Yeah. I mean, there's a rapper who does that literally prior to, I don't want to name this rapper, but he does this every time his album is about to drop. He gets into some nonsense with another rapper. He either starts a beef or he starts talking about another rapper's girlfriend, and it puts him on the map. And then he starts getting followers. While he's getting those followers, he's promoting his music.
Yeah.
So that's literally the era that we've jumped into.
kind of low key business wise, it makes sense.
It does make sense.
You get
Because
you get
people like
visibility.
drama.
Yeah,
People love drama.
you get visibility and you monetize it.
Bad press is still press.
Facts.
These are facts.
facts. Smythe, you was about to say something.
No, I was gonna say if you get knocked out, you probably at that point have a little less visibility, especially if
No, actually,
you get hit in your eye.
No, oh yeah. You are an
He
idiot.
did get rocked, yo. Like,
Yeah,
he was
his
that was
drawn
bad.
it out all this time.
My man with
When
literally
someone pull your pants
around his
down when they
ankles
beat you
makes
down.
no sense.
And it was funny because he kind of low key was able to flip the story a little bit and say, you know what I'm saying, I ain't want to, I don't want to shoot him or nothing like that. But I mean,
He flipped the story, but wasn't nobody.
I don't know. But some people will believe him.
Some people.
You know? But anyway, like this is where we're at now. Like this is where it's driven us. So it's like I can remember, this makes me feel old. The fact that it's 2019 and we're almost in 2020, and the fact that 10 years ago was just 2009 is very weird to me because it literally feels like just yesterday.
I think I was listening to Ludacris yesterday too, and I was like, wow. Like I was listening to the first album back for the first time.
You was in high school when that came out.
And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. So I'm thinking back like literally just 10 years ago, dudes were literally still doing music for the sake of art form. And there's always been commercial music.
Selling CDs.
Yeah, straight up. And that was the best part about that
Even
era.
selling single CDs, like the single CDs where it literally had just the song,
Yeah.
then the instrumental and the acapella on it.
they was doing that when I was in college. Like I would go get a single.
Right.
I would literally load up on singles on CDs and vinyl. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it's a maxi single.
Yeah, but that art is gone.
Because you're not going to be able to sell anything. But it's crazy because what you would have thought, what streaming platforms did was they, in essence, told the story. I'm not going to say they lied, but they told the story that this takes all the power and puts it back into the pockets of the artists. When actually, really, what streaming did was take all the power and put it back into
Their own
the
pockets.
hands of the major music companies, straight up. And so all they did was they said, okay, cool. What we'll do is we'll create the farms and, you know what I'm saying? And we'll basically create a system that now it's all about numbers. Whereas when it was first Napster and all that stuff, when all that came out, it was in the artist's hands. You know what I'm saying? Like 50 literally talks about how he would misname records, throw it up on Napster, and people would download a record and it would be his record. He has all the leverage in
Soulja
that.
Boy did that too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, one of the first on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
As a producer yourself, in this time right now, while they're still trying to figure everything out as far as how people are receiving their money through streaming, I could ask all three of you guys this actually. Would you rather receive your money on the front end or on the back end?
100% on the front.
Yeah, I'd have to go with the front.
Pay me now.
Yeah, I'd actually have to agree with that because it's just these guys are receiving fractions of a penny.
Yeah, I want to read some of these numbers too, because this is also a number. I don't think we read this particular part. The average per stream royalty for both the composition and recording on Spotify. Did you already?
I think I read
this?
that one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're not really
0.0038 per stream, and 0.0012 for the composition, which obviously is then split 50% between performance and mechanical.
And that's if you're a co-producer. So you literally, like, if two guys produce that, you have to split that split.
Yeah, bro.
Man, imagine four of us. Starts looking a little grim in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is pretty insane. But I will say this, even though this is still a good step in general.
Yeah, it's a 44% increase.
Exactly.
But they're planning on actually raising it more. But for now, that 44% increase is going to be within the next 3 years. It's not like they jumped right to the 44%. It's just going to gradually get to that.
And it's still on the songwriter side.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, too, the interesting thing about this is how much I think Apple and Tidal were cool with this. Amazon and Spotify, however, were not.
Amazon kind of surprises me.
I'm not surprised by it. That's their business model.
But Amazon is like, okay, I understand Spotify because that's literally what they, that's what they bank on. But
Spotify's business model is Amazon's business model, literally to the T. It's just a different industry.
I'm thinking Amazon literally makes billions.
Yeah.
Billions.
So here's why. Here's and I'm about to give them a little lesson right quick. So the thing you got to understand, especially with companies like Spotify and Amazon, in my opinion, more so than a Tidal and an Apple.
Okay.
So Apple and Tidal, technically, and I'm being, this is semantics right now, but I'm just using this to kind of explain what I'm saying. We've been using iTunes for over 10 years now. That's where we got our music. And then Tidal is literally just about the music. That's all they do. Shopify. We use Shopify. Shout out to Shopify. As a matter of fact, Shopify, if you're listening, we'd love for you to sponsor this podcast as well. Thanks. But
yes, sir.
But Spotify, you would think would be in the same places where Tidal is at, but never since they started have the splits ever been reasonable on Spotify, for creators. Same thing with Amazon, where I feel like the play for both Amazon and Spotify is more about figuring out a way to use your data to drive ad revenue.
Yeah, that's what it's really about.
Right.
Data game.
Yeah.
Which is why I was saying to you, I feel like Spotify's, their whole model is more based the Amazon model. Because kind of what Amazon does, except what Amazon does is they use your data to make you buy Amazon products. So if you buy something, they say, hey man, we make that same exact thing for half the price. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it really comes down to what this really shows you. And I think that if you are really genuinely considering to become a producer or a songwriter, you really have to sit down and you really have to go deep within your soul and say, am I really doing this because I really genuinely love to do this? Because if that's the case, you'll make music forever until you die.
Yeah, and sometimes perseverance actually is the X variable for success, not anything else. And the only way you can persevere through times that are rough like this is passion.
Facts.
Indeed.
Passion and also creativity.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Creativity is always going to be the thing that helps you get over the hump.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have any creative, so that's why like Smythe is a perfect, let's use Smythe as a perfect example. So Smythe comes to me and he says, hey Wes, I want to put these records out. I'm a really good musician. He literally said this. He said, I'm the best guitarist that has ever played the guitar ever. I'm joking.
Facts, but I didn't say no. I'm just kidding.
But he literally came to me and he said, I can attest to this, and everybody in this group can attest to this. Smythe just genuinely loves to create music. But
These are facts.
Facts.
however, he's not a good marketer, nor does he understand the business side of it.
These are also
So what he had to do is he had to come to me to figure out how he was going to navigate all this stuff, how he was going to market himself and everything like that. Do you guys think that like people should really consider maybe taking like a hard look at, are they actually capable of pulling that off before they step out into this?
I mean,
Like
yeah.
Smythe, I want you to speak as somebody who just loves the music,
Yeah. Well, no, I don't. Well, I mean, yeah, you should take a hard look, but that shouldn't stop you from doing something that you love to do, because like, I don't have the skills to market something, at least not right now. But look at where my skills and my talents have led me
Right.
to a point where now I can make a living for myself. To me, it's all about getting in where you fit in.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like don't settle,
Mm-hmm.
but get in where you fit in and work as hard as you can. And like, yeah, one day you'll learn how to do it. Or, even if you're not as good as you can be, you're really good at being a producer. You're really good at being a musician. You're really good at, I don't know, being a tour manager, or you're good at all of them, and you'll still be able to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about it.
Right.
But of course not. Yeah, I would say don't settle, but don't let, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that, stop you from stepping out and doing what you actually want to do.
Right. Now, the beautiful thing about this also too is I do feel like this has been one of the main reasons why the type beat movement is as strong as it is today. It has literally forced producers to be more creative. It's forced producers to go into their bag to create an original brand. How they visually present themselves is just as important as how sonically they present themselves. And like, I know guys that are type B producers whose stuff has never landed on a major record that are making $10,000 a month because they were just consistent and they figured out a way to literally capitalize and build a brand so that when you see it, like, that it's them. Our good buddy Homage, I'm not going to talk about how much money.
Shout out to Homage.
Yeah, shout out to Homage.
Shout out to Homage, man.
I'm not going to talk about how much money he makes because that's his business, but Homage makes, his wife doesn't work. This dude just moved to Asia. Now his cost of living is like a fraction of what it was, and this dude is like living it up right now. So now him and his wife are going to be, and I'm sorry I'm telling all his business right now. Sorry, bro. But him and his wife are basically able to live and to travel and to do all these things now because of type beats. Because he figured out, just because I'm a producer, just because, I can't make any money on the back end from these big records, I can still make beats every day and still actually get paid, because now production has become a source of entertainment.
And the irony of it all is that sometimes it still leads you back to that big placement.
Which has happened to him.
The kid, yeah, for him. And, even if you look throughout a lot of records that come out, like Panda with, what was
Designer.
Designer. Where did he go? But anyway, that record was a type beat kid. He threw it up online, and he actually had a whole cohort of them that they just, up at their production team, now they get a lot of work out in LA and everything, but it started from them just creating a pool of beats they would still up online.
What was the name of that group that you were telling me about? Do you remember their name?
That was them. I forget. I gotta remember for the next.
The Producers Menace?
Yeah. I gotta remember that whole group of guys. There's a lot of them, man. They all live in a house together. Just make
So
beats.
with the spins on that record, I really want to know what kind of checks came their way for that, because that was like,
I think he went and got his money, but yeah, from that I think it was more about the, okay, now we have the attention
that's what I wanted everybody to kind of focus on. So here's the beautiful thing. So you may not make any money, but how you take that attention and monetize that attention makes all world of difference. Which is why I said a few minutes ago, it's really about how you can take yourself, market yourself visibly, especially because sonically everybody already likes your stuff. So you're going to get attention for the sound regardless. But how you now present yourself visibly, do you have a BeatStars page? You know what I'm saying? And now all of a sudden they hear this one particular track, but because you've been grinding, now they go and find you and you have 10,000 tracks on BeatStars.
Exactly.
And now in one day you've made $10,000 just off of one placement. So you're not necessarily always, and this is the conversation that I've had. Listen, guys, John and I have had this conversation too many times for me to count about how either 42 North or Weatherman can take advantage of the fact that they get a lot of visible looks from people on the outside looking in. And I've even said, have you guys ever thought about making something that resembles like a type beat thing, or going and making your own records? You know what I'm saying? The problem that we then run into is, the whole thing of like, these guys have built their brand is kind of, they can't do that for their brand, because they've put them in themselves to land bigger records now. So now they can't be quote unquote like a type beat producer. I mean, they could, but
it's interesting thing to navigate. I mean, we thought through so many scenarios, like playing undercover and like rocking out, but using aliases and all that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it all comes back to the bigger point you guys are talking about. Like, why are you here? Answering those big questions of art, but still kind of marrying it and trying to see where the overlap is with, I still need to make a living. So how can you do both and keep artistic integrity, but still make a living for yourself? Like, you have to ask those hard questions. If you're going to make a living for yourself, you got to do something. Mm-hmm. You can't let the artistic expectations rule sometimes all the time, because then, you may never make money, and then it's foolish. So to me, it's about just not compromising in a way where like you're selling out, but like, how can you reconcile the two things? Because I see so many guys at the two different extremes, and it's bad. Like, you're just in it to make money and the art sucks.
Right.
Or you're such an artist and you say you want to make money, but you're not doing anything to make money.
Right.
Then you get depressed and frustrated and anything. So it's like, how do you reconcile the two?
And then social media just wreaks havoc.
Sure.
Because as soon as you open it up, you're seeing somebody that is killing it. But I always tell people, if you're not going to put in the work, you can't complain, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like Homage's work ethic is insane.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, there's dudes that even put more effort, and this is not to disparage Homage. Like, Homage actually puts mad work in, but I'm talking about from the standpoint of setting up a camera every day, so that when they're making their beat or when they're doing their production, now you're getting a visual perspective of what they're doing, and that's why they're able to capitalize off of that. So you see guys, and they're willing to do this every day, and so John has been privy to me having a conversation with an artist that we had the potential to work with, and the first question I asked was, are you willing to literally work every day at this? Oh yeah, man, I'm really to. Okay, cool. What have you done before we had this conversation, that validates that you are ready to work every day, 10 hours a day? Because that's what it takes. The thing that people, when they watch their favorite producers, when they watch their favorite actors, when they watch their favorite artists, the thing that they don't realize is these guys have insane work ethics. You go out to an LA, you sit in a session, you will find out real quick whether you got it or not.
Yeah, dude. We were out in LA, had some writers who literally had 4 sessions before they came to ours. I'm like,
4 sessions.
Yeah, these guys literally live in the studio.
And then it was like, hey, so what do you want to work on? What are you feeling? She's like, just throw anything on. Like, writing at that point is a reflex.
Yep.
It's a reflex, dude.
It's like riding a bike. Yeah. So if you're not really willing to sell out to do that,
work on your craft too.
Yeah,
daily.
Straight up.
Daily.
Listen, to do this company, mad nights. Me, John, and Joel are up till 4:00 in the morning to get this off the ground. Like, every day. And it might not even look like it, but behind the scenes is a whole lot of stuff happening. When you get into a position where you're able to have, you're able to talk, into like the younger generation, that's the first thing that I say is, if you don't really have the work ethic, you're not going to be able to succeed. If you're not going to be a Smythe that gets up every day, who is already literally sitting down in the studio by 9:30 in the morning and does not stop except for lunch break until 5 or 6 in the evening, then leave, then go to rehearsal, play at rehearsal, come home, wake up the next morning and do it all over again, and still play on Sundays, you're not going to be able to succeed in this. you know. So,
but health is also a good balance, and that's why he's taking a break. I commend him for that. He's taking a break on the other stuff so he can focus on also having that artistic outlet too.
Yeah, I had to do that. But yeah, like, yeah, when you guys were talking about like I don't know, it's just something weird about a bunch of producers in a house.
Like the energy's gotta be mad high in there. Like,
yeah, but I mean, my thing is like, this is so off topic, but like, I'm just thinking about having a bunch of producers in a room. You know, all of them, all they know how to do is just like mess with a M audio controller. Like, y'all are really splitting publishing.
Right. But can you really knock the hustle though? Because they're almost, in a way, because of the way things are, they're forced to do that in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's, again, my perspective is I'm so much on I'm on like do it because you love it side. It's like, yo, y'all could at least learn how to play an instrument
or a couple chords. I understand that.
But yeah, I understand.
Yeah. We make dudes lazy though, low key. Soul Surplus makes dudes, especially when the one shots came in and those chords. Dudes just like, okay, I'm not to play the piano now.
I'm gonna let everyone know. It's funny Wes says it because Wes can actually play keys really good. And this man will sample keys before he'll play them. So it's funny he would say that.
Yeah, I think Wes is probably the first producer that I ever met in my life that frustrated me.
How so?
When I met him, he was just like, you know, like even to this day, he's still a phenomenal producer. So it's like when he's still creating and making stuff, like even back then when I first met him and Eric introduced me to him, and, you know, we're just all in, you know, his spot, and he just starts playing all this stuff, and I'm just like looking at him like, are you kidding me right now? And that was back then when I was like playing around with Fruity Loops.
I remember them days.
And oh my god, Sony Acid to try and sample things. to try and sample things. I was literally taking the stuff on Acid, cutting it on Acid, because I wasn't sure how to actually do it on Fruity Loops at the time. But once I learned on Fruity Loops, it was a whole different ball game. But
you know, Apollo still use Cool Edit Pro.
Does he?
I saw that he posted that video yesterday, and he was talking about
how he does it.
Yeah,
old habits die hard. But that was just like a whole like an eye-opening thing within his like itself. Just like watching him, like even that first time that I saw him producing something and making it, and just like literally taking it from the vinyl, cutting it up, dumping it on Logic, and then just like starting to like putting it on the pads, and just like the whole, I'm just like literally like looking at him in awe, just like, wow, this is crazy. I don't know. I still hate you to this day every time you produce it.
You know what's funny about like that whole process? In this same conversation I had with my brother yesterday, I was telling him about how I was watching Deconstructed on Genius. I think I told you guys this. And they're just pulling stuff from Splice. Shout out to Splice too.
Yeah, Splice also. I need y'all to go ahead and sponsor this podcast. I'm actually going to send them an email today because we low key should have some type of affiliate marketing. Go ahead. Smythe. I apologize.
Yes. No, but I'm watching their process, and I was telling my brother, I'm like, yo, am I that old school for me to be playing? Like when I'm making pretty much anything at this point, like I'm sitting down surrounded by instruments, and I love it. That's the reason why I do it, is because I love to play.
Right.
I got to get 2 guitars on my right, a bass. Behind me is like a stack of like vintage boards.
Right.
And then I'm watching like these producers nowadays just with a controller and a laptop. And
sometimes just a laptop.
Yeah, sometimes just a laptop, which is crazy. That's not even an instrument. I feel like I sound so outdated saying some of that stuff like that, or that kind of attitude. But he was telling me, he said, you know, I used to go through a phase where I wanted to know how things were made. I want to know how everything was made, but now I don't want to. And I can relate to that just because, like, yo, when you learn that your favorite songs or like your favorite producers just use a laptop, but when you hear it, you're like, yo, I hear strings and I hear, you know, whatever, like, you know, I mean, even just a, you know, example, like you hear like randomly, this is just super random example, like The World Is Yours, Like that is an amazing record.
Facts.
And Pete Rock is an amazing producer. But like that piano part is just like because of the way it's done, it feels like it's being played out. But like, you know, imagine you go to a Nas show, you expect to see a drummer and
you don't even got an NPC is up there with an ASR, like, and you're like,
so where's Ahmad Jamal?
right?
No, but I say all that to say, like, it's just so much of a different time where things aren't really what they seem like. Like you think these, or at least for me, my impression was like, oh, these producers, you know, they're probably mixing out of NS10s and they're you know, they got all kinds of boards and stuff, but they're just using a laptop. You see him on Instagram, you're like, yo, this dude probably has money. Like, oh, he produced this. Like, he's probably, you know, and it's not that way, you know.
My man has a Dell laptop from Best Buy.
It's
That was
literally-
$900.
Yeah.
Literally
Yeah.
depending on how you sell your beats, because even the producer of I'm in Love with the Coco for OT Genesis, he literally sold that beat to him for $200 up front. $200. Didn't make any money on the back end. So it's like you gotta these days you gotta kind of make your money on the front end
Yeah,
until all of this stuff is actually solved. So as a producer, don't be shy to put if the artist really wants that song, that beat off of you, don't be shy to like, listen, I want 1,500.
Also, to the front end thing, it's kind of interesting to think that listening trends also affect that.
Yeah.
Your
Very
song
true.
will be forgotten tomorrow.
Yeah.
Might as well get it, cash
This
it
is such
now.
a now generation. Like everything is just like depletes so fast these days. That there's always something new. So they hop on to the next new thing. And the next new thing literally comes out, if not next week, next year.
You know, producers should really, and he's not a producer, but producers should really take a day, go and look at Lil Nas X's Twitter timeline and write and take notes. That dude really knows how to take advantage of when the spotlight is on him. He really does. As a matter of fact, the reason why he has so much spotlight is because he knew how to gain attention by utilizing the way that people consume content right now.
Right.
And then he continues even to this day. It's not going to be a one-time thing, because obviously my first thought was like, I hope this isn't going to. This is probably just going to be like a one hitter quitter. Yeah, but the way he really uses attention, he's kind of a genius at it, and that's the reason why I got attention in the first place.
I mean, look at artists. Like, you almost have to be like a triple threat to actually make some bread in this industry. Because if you're not a triple threat, like The Dream, he's a singer, songwriter, producer. He does all of that stuff. But then now you got artists like Ludacris that had to venture out and go to, like, you know, do movies. Or 50 Cent was doing movies at that time. It's like you got to have that hustle mentality. It's like, I'm not just going to do this. I literally have these other tricks in my bag that I could actually make bread off of this too.
Right. And I'll say this, and we're going to end now because we're teetering past an hour at this point. But the one thing that I do like, what streaming has done is I feel like that it's pulled out more talent than maybe just the generation previous before this generation right now.
Shout out to SoundCloud rappers.
Yeah. So a lot of the newer talent, they are really talented at a younger age, because you have to be better to stand out.
And doing this stuff in their own homes too.
Well, listen, guys, this was a really spirited conversation. Again, if you guys actually go and follow us on anchor.fm/Soul Surplus, you can actually leave us a little voice memo about maybe some of the things that you'd like for us to talk about. We're going to take some of those memos, or maybe even some of your thoughts about what we talked about in this episode. We're going to take some of that stuff and we're going to try to make sure that we can implement that in the show some way. Show you guys some love. But I appreciate Smythe and John coming through today with me and Zari, man. Really, really thought this was a great conversation, and looking forward to all our followers getting a chance to listen to this. So with all that being said, we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Peace.
Later, man.
Yo.